What is up guys, Cash back again, and today we're talking about the direction the Marvel's Avengers narrative is heading in with the new story-driven content that's coming in patches 2.6 and 2.7, and why I'm pretty sure the purpose of this new content is to finally bring about the end of AIM, and I'll break down everything we have so far that supports that theory, so let's jump into it. So with the 2-year anniversary right around the corner for Avengers, a lot of players are looking back at what we've seen added to the game since launch in terms of content and story, and to be honest, when it comes to the game's story, not a lot has changed since the campaign wrapped up. Every new hero's story has been heavily tied to AIM, with the focus of their story being centered around investigating AIM or working with AIM or fighting someone who's working with AIM, and AIM, and more AIM. But it seems the dev team has finally recognized that having the Avengers struggle against just one evil organization for this long makes the game pretty still and has players desperate to see a new enemy faction introduced simply for the sake of having someone else to fight. But because the game is so narrative focused, they can't simply just drop in new enemies and villains. There has to be a story-based reason for their arrival, and before we can cross that bridge, they want to wrap up the story surrounding the game's current villains, and that's where AIM Island and Cloning Lab come into play. In the new blog update, we got a bit more insight into what's going on with the new Warzone mission that will feature Monica as the boss again, this time without the Cosmic Cube, and it says that the No Rest for the Wicked Warzone will be a new villain-focused adventure for all players. The Scientist Supreme is running out of resources and clones and takes further risks to secure AIM's power. Monica has recovered MODOK from the San Francisco Bay with plans to revive him for use as a weapon against the Avengers, and the team has to try and stop her before MODOK is revived. And we also got a small mission description from the game files that was shared by Miller that says AIM is drawing a lot of energy to an uninhabited area, and Jarvis suspects this is the new location of AIM Island. So we know that desperation is setting in for Monica because she's running low on resources, but they also made sure to add in that she's running out of clones as well. And we've seen several of her clones taken down through the game's story, with Monica herself always safe and removed from any danger. And for newer players or for anyone who's skipped out on the game's campaign, Monica was conducting a lot of experiments on the Inhumans AIM was capturing, with one in particular having the ability to make clones of herself, with the only way of telling the original from the clones was the eyes of the clones were always two different colors. And Monica clearly learned to replicate this power for her own use, because when MODOK confronts her, they intentionally show a close-up of her eyes so you can see that her eyes are indeed two different colors, meaning the version of Monica you're seeing is a clone. And in the game's post-credit scene, you see the newly appointed Scientist Supreme up close to reveal that the real Monica is alive and well. So anytime that we've encountered Monica after the campaign, it's always been one of her clones. But now I believe we'll finally see the real Monica in action as the Avengers storm AIM Island, which I believe will end with Monica being arrested and telling the Avengers about AIM's cloning lab where MODOK is. And once the Avengers go after AIM's cloning lab, I think that will be the end of AIM's major strongholds, and with the real Monica finally removed from the top of the pyramid, AIM will finally be shut down, allowing the Avengers to believe things will cool down, only to be caught off guard by the introduction of a new threat. I'm sure Monica will have a clone in her back pocket still operating once she's apprehended, but AIM as an organization will no longer be the overarching villains of the story, and whatever Monica's clone is up to won't be revealed until sometime down the line. We know now that Bucky will be tied into the story surrounding AIM Island and AIM's cloning lab, so I'm hoping we get either a chance to see him during the AIM Island mission, similar to what we got with Hawkeye being a part of Kate's operation, or at the very least we get some mention of him that teases he'll be a part of the mission to destroy AIM's cloning lab. We also know from Miller's data mining adventures that work has been done on Ultron behind the scenes, and while we have no knowledge of when or where he'll actually show up in the game's story, he has been teased, and with AIM having produced so many robots and with the Avengers essentially putting them out of business, that kinda sets the stage perfectly for Ultron to step in and put those bots and facilities to use for his own purposes. And I'm really hoping we get a tease for Ultron at the end of the cloning lab mission, since I believe that will be the last content we get for the year, and setting up the rise of Ultron as the first big new villain for year 3 of Avengers would be a great great way to close out the year in my opinion, and we did get this tease from Brian not too long ago about really cool villains being in the pipeline and some really amazing narrative being put together, but we'll ultimately have to wait and see how everything plays out. But as I said, the devs have made it clear that they recognize it's time to move the game's narrative forward, and they've reminded us several times that a Kree invasion is coming, and now it's time to start pushing the story in that direction. But now I want to hear from you guys down below. How do you think the story of AIM will be concluded, and how do you think Bucky will tie into it? Let me know down below, and make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more Marvel's Avengers content every week. And if you're interested in picking up Avengers merch, shop with Fandom and make sure to use my code in the description to get an additional 10% off. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.